If you're anything like me, there are times when you get bored of your everyday life to the point of depression, and you want to read or experience something that will relieve your mind of your problems. Reading webcomics and manga or consuming any type of fictional entertainment in general is a good solution to that. Being the webcomic fanatic who reads new stuff all the time, I thought why not share some goodies that I've been reading over the month with you guys. So without further talking, here are top 10 webcomics that I think you should totally be reading. First one we got is Leveling with Gods. The story follows Kim Yu-woon, who became one of the strongest warriors of his world, but in the end he failed to protect it alongside with his comrades. In the last moment of desperation, he has been given a chance to go back in time and save the world from the Outer Gods, the ancient evil that threatened to destroy everything he loves. The main story setting is basically climbing a tower, a well-known plot point for many Korean webcomics nowadays. But the unique thing that personally got my attention in this comic is how they introduced the mythological gods here. Gods in these comics are powerful beings who clip the tower and giant power through it. We already got a look at several deities in the beginning, such as Monkey King Wukong, Hercules, Kronos. We even got mentions of Merlin, Ashura and Zeus. The idea of having all those kind of different mythological beings, creatures and deities in one place, interacting with each other is pretty unique, and also one of the main reasons why I invested so much time in this comic. It also helps that the art is pretty damn good as well. The action sequences are well paced and you can actually feel the impact of fight throughout the pages. Overall, it's a pretty fun power fantasy ride and you should totally check it out. Next one we got is The Boxer. As you probably guessed from the title, this comic is about boxing. But unlike the other comics, this one doesn't have one traditional main character, and instead, it follows the story of three boys, Yu, Injae and Ryu. Three teenage boys who are completely different from one another but have one thing in common, and that is boxing. I think the main reason why I enjoyed the story this much is because of Yu. His past is pretty much a mystery. He's an incredibly depressed character who is losing his humanity the more story progresses, and has no sense of fear or caution when he enters the ring. That, combined with his incredible talent in boxing, makes him the most dangerous fellow to face against. I cannot express you how satisfying it is to see him beat the living shit out of his opponents when he enters the ring. He is merciless at what he does, to the point that people think he is not even a human. From the looks of it, it's pretty obvious he's being set up to be the main antagonist of the series, and I cannot wait to see the part in the story where all the main characters finally crash with each other. Fights are well drawn and it's pretty entertaining to look at. You can feel the weight and the power between each strong punch throughout the pages. Story is pretty unique, engaging and entertaining, and I won't say much about it because I don't want to spoil much, so I will just say that it's a must read. The Return of Crazy Demon is yet another going back in a time story, this time set in the Murim world. Izaha is a crazy demon who is crazy for martial arts. While he was running away after stealing from demon cult leader, he fell off the cliff and died, only to open his eyes and see that he had returned back in a time when he was a waiter. The art is pretty cool. I especially love the facial expressions characters make when they are angry or just pissed. I laughed many times when I was reading this story. The comedy was unique for me simply because just how blunt and carefree the main character was. If you are tired of same goody two shoes or revenge driven MCs and want to experience something new in terms of main character, then I suggest you give this one a try. Doombreaker is about Zephyr, who is the last and strongest human left alive to fight the evils in the world abandoned by the gods. When it seems like everything was over, he got a chance offered by the said gods to go back in time and try again, simply because of their amusement. But Zephyr has something else in mind. He will accept the general's offer and use this opportunity to become strongest and go beyond what he has previously achieved to make the arrogant gods pay for what they have done. The story isn't much to look at so far, but with the top tier art combined by the impressive fighting scenes, you will get pretty entertaining reading material. If you are tired of subplots and twists in every manhwa and you just want to look at something cool to stimulate your monkey brain, then I guess this one is for you. Next in the list we got Mercenary Enrolment. Yu Do-yoon is a teenage girl who is taking care of her grandfather. She gets bullied at school on a daily basis by her classmates, but she tries her best to go through it and finish her classes without trouble. One day, she gets a surprise revelation that her older brother, Eugene, who was believed to be long dead, is actually alive and is coming back home. The story setting is of a high school action drama where main character is a well-trained fighter who is pretty OP when it comes to hand-to-hand combat business. I went into this story thinking that I would get bored quickly, but to my surprise, the author manages to keep you interested in every chapter you read. The fighting scenes are well drawn, the art is pleasant to look at, and the side characters are fun to watch. Reading their interaction with Eugene is especially entertaining. Plus, it's always satisfying to see the shocked faces of the arrogant gangsters when Eugene demonstrates his skill in combat. Definitely recommending reading this one. The Returner's magic should be special is about mages and the magic, as you probably guessed from the title. The series wound the survivors left in the Shadow World labyrinth. In the final battle with the Dragon of Destruction, they win the fight only to despair as a huge wave of mana bursts from the dragon's heart, destroying everything in close proximity. Eleceed accepts his fate and prepares for his death, only to open his eyes and find himself back in time by 13 years. It's really entertaining to watch Eleceed try to change his life and the fate of his colleagues with his vigilant knowledge. His powers are on the weaker side compared to other mages, but he makes up for it with his intellect and anti-mage powers. I also find his personality really unique in the sense that he is really compassionate and kind to people and to his colleagues in general, but is merciless against his enemies. There is this one point in comic where he captured this woman and pretty much tortured her all the night for the information. I was really pleasantly surprised reading that part since I felt like it was a new and fresh take on traditional good-natured main character who tries to help his friends and is actually willing to kill his enemies instead of trying to turn them back to the good side with a Takano Jutsu or some shit. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Naruto. Next one we got is a law advice from Great Duke of Hell. Now this one is a pure comedy. High school student Paul summons a demon as tarot of 23 Great Dukes of Hell to give him some advice on how to talk to Elena, a cute girl who works at a local cafe. If that someone isn't fun and intriguing enough to get your attention, then I don't know, you're a dull person in my eyes. The story is just that. A guy summons a devil to get a law advice on a girl he likes. I just cannot express how many times I laughed while reading this story. The art is really good to look at. The facial expressions the characters make in absurd situations is freaking amazing to behold. Basically, if you want to read something funny and more light-hearted and have some fun, then this one is a mandatory for you to read. Next comes Eleceed. Okay, this one was a pleasant surprise for me when I read it. Jinwoo is a kind-hearted young man who harnesses the lightning-quick reflexes of a cat to secretly make a world a better place. Kaden is a secret agent on the run who finds himself stuck in the body of a fat old fluffy cat. Together, armed with Jinwoo's superpowers and Kaden's aber smarts, they are out to fight those forces who won't let evil rule this world. That summary doesn't do enough justice to this comic. Basically, an OP superhuman gets mortally wounded in battle and has no choice but to take a form of a fat cat. And the kid, who has superpowers and also takes in stray cats on a regular daily basis, comes across this said stray cat and takes pity on him. And from there, all hell breaks loose. The art is a top tier, characters are amazing, and the world building is one of the most interesting aspects of the story that I really have seen in a manhwa so far. It's like My Hero Academia, only more mature with a good balance of humor and seriousness and a better main character, who is as selfless and as kind as Deku, but is more interesting to read about compared to the latter one. I personally binged the 160 chapters in one day, and that's gotta say something. So I really recommend putting this one on your reading list. The next hidden gem is Overgeared. Shin Young-woo has had an unfortunate life in both virtual gaming world and the real life. Being the useless son of the family, Shin Young-woo is constantly chewed out by his family and laughed at by his old classmates. But he doesn't give in, and after endless hours of struggle, he finally obtained the first legendary class in the game. The story setting is virtual reality gaming world, kinda like Sword Art Online, only more interesting, and the characters aren't stuck inside the gaming world. Plus there isn't anything weirdly sexualized in here. A lot of people tend to drop this comic because they don't like main character's greedy personality, and I think that is a shame because the whole story is about the main character growing as a person and changing his own personality from being greedy shut-in who wants to make money to a dependable leader who helps and is willing to sacrifice himself for his friends. That character growth is a bit slow burn, but ultimately rewards the reader with a satisfying development of an MC. The art, as you can see, is really good to look at. It has diverse cast of characters with unique looks and design, and yeah, it is a pretty good time killer, so I suggest to take a look at this one as well. And for the last bit we got Legend of the Northern Blade. For decades, the brave warriors of Northen heavenly sect fought to keep the world safe from the evil Silent Knight. But when the 4th generation leader, Jin Kwan-ho, is accused of colluding with the enemy, he is forced to disband the sect and commit suicide in order to protect his son. The story is set in Murim world. The art is phenomenal to look at. The way characters' world and story in general is presented and drawn is simply breathtaking. Jin Moo-woon is an unfortunate victim of conspiration that took his father's life. Despite the numerous torture he has been gone through to the hands of his abusers, he keeps his mind sharp and studies martial arts in secrecy in order to one day prove his father's innocence and avenge his death. The story is so well executed that the reader can feel the emotions and the struggle of each character drawn on each page. The growth of Jin from being a slave to a dependable, young, skilled martial artist is satisfying as well as rewarding thing to look at. The side characters are well written, with each of them having a diverse personality which makes them stand out on their own. The whole story feels like you are reading about the real human beings who are thrown into a merciless world of Murim. Definitely a must-have on your reading list. So yeah, this is it, I guess. Those were some of the comics that I have been reading those last couple of months. And I really do hope you guys at least like a few out of the whole list. I have 5 dozen more comics to share, but for now I will keep them in mind for maybe part 2 of this video, if I make one that is. Until then, thank you guys for watching this video. Leave a like if you did find some of the manhwas interesting. And yeah, I will see you guys on the next video. Until then, take care and goodbye.